Imagine freezing to death in a storm, and waking up in the arms of a vampire king. A king who rules a kingdom locked in eternal winter. But the moment he saves you, something monstrous stirs beneath the ice. A demon waking from a century of rage. And it wants you. Quick one. Drop your country or city in the comments. Let's see how far this story travels. The snowstorm was so thick it felt alive. Elias Ward had traveled through harsh winters before, but this wasteland was different. The snow fell like ash from a broken sky, and the wind didn't howl, it whispered. Every gust sounded like a voice calling to him, almost mocking him for thinking he could survive this place. He leaned forward against the storm, one arm raised to shield his face. His scarf was stiff with ice. His boots were soaked through, and every step felt like lifting a rock tied to his ankle. The cold wasn't just biting at him. It was chewing through his bones. "How far?" he mumbled, breath fogging instantly. He had no answer. There were no markers, no trees, no mountains, just white emptiness stretching without end. His fingers had gone numb an hour ago. His heartbeat felt slow, like it was freezing inside his chest. "Keep moving. Don't stop." But the voice was growing weaker. His vision blurred. Sometimes he thought he saw shapes moving at the edges of the storm. Tall shadows gliding over the snow, too smooth to be human, too quiet to be beasts. Every time he blinked, they disappeared. "Just tricks," he whispered to himself. "Just snow and tired eyes." But the storm didn't care. It slammed into him harder, pushing him sideways. He stumbled and fell to his knees. The snow welcomed him cruelly, swallowing his legs as if the ground wanted to eat him whole. Elias pushed himself up, but his arms trembled violently. He tried again, nothing. His muscles refused. A cold realization hit him. This was where his journey ended. His breath came out in harsh, painful gasps. The world dimmed around the edges. The white wasteland grew darker and darker until even the blizzard seemed to fade. He collapsed fully, cheek pressed into the freezing snow. His eyelids fluttered. "I don't want to die," he muttered weakly, though even his own voice sounded distant. The storm swallowed the words instantly. But then, through the roar of the blizzard, Elias heard something new. A step. Low. Heavy. Approaching. At first he thought it was the storm playing tricks again. But the footsteps grew clearer, crunching the snow with deliberate weight. A shadow fell over him, tall, dark, almost unreal against the endless white. Through his half-frozen eyelashes, Elias saw a silhouette kneeling beside him. The shape leaned closer, revealing pale skin, hair like white fire blowing wildly in the wind, and eyes glowing faintly silver. A voice, deep and steady, cut through the storm like a blade through ice. "You are far from any safe path, traveler." Elias tried to lift his head. "Please help." The figure studied him quietly. Then, without hesitation, cold but strong arms slid beneath Elias, lifting him as if he weighed nothing. The world swayed. Warmth, unnatural, sharp and electric, spread through Elias's chest where the figure held him close. The stranger spoke again, voice low and strangely calm despite the raging storm. "Rest now. The blizzard cannot take you while I hold you." Elias managed a weak whisper. "Who are you?" The silver eyes glinted. "A king," the stranger answered. "Your only chance tonight." Elias let himself fall into darkness, feeling those eyes watching him the entire time. Warmth. That was the first thing Elias felt. Not real warmth, but something warmer than death. An unnatural heat spread through his veins like liquid fire. He blinked slowly, his eyelids heavy, as the world sharpened around him. He lay on a bed carved from a single block of smooth crystal ice. Yet the sheets were soft, fur-lined, and warm against his skin. Above him, the ceiling glowed with a faint blue light, like trapped stars frozen in the icicles. "Where am I?" Elias whispered. A soft crackling hum echoed through the chamber before a door opened. Cold air drifted in. Footsteps approached with steady rhythm, Calm, controlled, almost regal. The figure from the storm stepped into view. He was tall, far taller than any man Elias had ever seen. His hair, long and pale as winter light, fell behind him in loose waves that shimmered against the icy walls. His skin was ivory pale, smooth as polished stone. His clothes were made of dark, layered fabrics embroidered with silver thread, and a fur mantle rested around his shoulders like a cloak of frost. But it was his eyes, those silver, depthless eyes, that held Elias frozen in place. The stranger stopped a few feet away, hands clasped behind his back. "You survived," he said calmly. Elias swallowed. "Because of you." The man inclined his head once. Yes. There was no arrogance in his voice, just truth stated plainly. The man stepped closer, and Elias noticed that the air around him seemed colder, but strangely soothing, like the sharpness of winter air after a long sickness. The stranger studied him with quiet intensity. "You were on the edge of death when I found you," he said. "The storm does not forgive trespassers." Elias pushed himself up slowly, wincing. "Thank you. Truly. I would have died out there." "You would have," the man agreed without emotion. "But I chose otherwise." Elias stared. "Why?" A flicker of something unreadable passed across the stranger's face. "Because fate placed you in my path," he answered. "And I do not ignore such things." He turned his head slightly, as if listening to distant sounds. After a pause he added, "And because the snow itself whispered your presence." Elias frowned. The snow whispered. The man didn't explain. Instead, he pulled a crystal goblet from a nearby table and held it out. "Drink. Your body needs strength." The liquid inside glowed faintly red, warm enough to release soft steam. Elias stared at it uneasily. "What is it?" "A healing elixir," the king said. "Made with blood and herbs. It will not harm you." Elias hesitated. The man's silver eyes narrowed just slightly. Not in anger, more like curiosity. "You fear it." Elias felt his pulse quicken. "I don't know what's in it." "You do not trust me," the king said. "I know I'm just cautious." The man stepped closer. His presence felt larger, colder, yet comforting in a strange way. "Drink," he said softly. "Your life is of more value than your fear." Elias exhaled shakily and finally took the goblet. The warmth of it seeped through his palms. When he took a sip, the taste surprised him. Not metallic, not bitter. More like spiced wine, rich and strangely soothing. Heat filled his chest, loosening the stiffness in his limbs. "Better," the king murmured approvingly. Elias looked up at him. "What should I call you?" For a moment the man was silent. Then he answered. "Lucian Frostborn. King of the Winter Dominion." Elias blinked. "A king?" Lucian nodded. "This castle is my throne. The land around it is my kingdom." Elias scanned the shimmering room again. The walls of carved ice, the faint blue glow, the cold beauty everywhere. "It's incredible," he whispered. Lucian watched him quietly. Elias got the feeling that Lucian was always watching, always evaluating, as if trying to read every thought passing through his mind. "You will see more of it when you can walk," Lucian said. "But understand something," Elias warned. He spoke the name with a strange familiarity. "This kingdom is not easily survived. Winter rules everything here. Even time." Elias shifted. "How long was I unconscious?" "A single night," Lucian replied. "Though it may have felt longer." Elias rubbed his arms. The lingering warmth from the elixir was fading slowly. Lucian's gaze dropped to Elias's shivering hands. "You are cold." He moved to the wall and touched a carved crystal. A pulse of soft heat spread across the room instantly. "Better." Elias blinked at the sudden comfort. "Yes, thank you." Lucian returned to his place beside the bed. His voice softened almost unnoticeably. "You should not have been out there alone." I was searching for somewhere to stay, Elias said. Every path I took led to more snow. I didn't even realize there was a kingdom here. Most do not, Lucian said. This land hides itself from the world. Those who wander too close rarely return. Elias tensed. Then, am I trapped here? Lucian tilted his head slightly. Trapped? Well, not unless you choose to be. Something in his tone made Elias's stomach tighten, but he wasn't sure if it was fear or something else. And if I stay? Elias asked. Lucian's silver eyes met his with a steadiness that felt like ice locking into place. Then you will be under my protection, he said. No storm, no creature of winter, and no shadow moving beneath the snow will touch you while you are within my walls. Elias frowned. Creatures. Lucian didn't look away. His voice remained calm, but the air around him seemed to drop a few degrees. This land is not empty, Elias. There are things in the blizzards. Old things, hungry things. He paused, watching Elias's reaction. But none will approach while I am near. Elias exhaled. So, you saved me from the storm. Lucian nodded. And from the eyes watching you, he added softly. Elias's breath hitched. Eyes. Lucian stepped closer until he was only an arm's length away. You were not alone out there, he murmured. Something followed you through the storm. It retreated only when I arrived. Elias felt his skin crawl. What was it? Lucian's expression didn't change. A shadow born of the winter. A reminder that this kingdom has old debts. And older enemies. Elias's heartbeat quickened. Is it still out there, looking for me? Lucian leaned slightly forward, his silver eyes catching the glow of the icy walls. No, he said. It was looking for me. The room felt colder suddenly, as if the walls themselves held their breath. Lucian straightened again. Rest now. When you regain your strength, I will show you the castle. Elias nodded slowly, but his eyes stayed on Lucian. Why did you save me? He asked again quietly. Lucian paused at the doorway, his back to Elias. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, without turning, he answered. Because the storm wanted you. And anything the storm wants, I deny. The door closed behind him, leaving Elias alone with the echoes of those words. And the strange warmth that lingered beneath his skin. Elias awoke the next morning to soft blue light, like dawn filtered through snow. His body felt heavier but stronger, as if the strange elixir in his blood had rebuilt him from the inside. When he sat up, the fur blanket slid off, revealing air so cold it stung, but not painfully, more like a warning. He dressed in clean clothes someone had placed nearby, simple layers lined with winter wolf fur, far warmer than anything he owned. When he slipped on the boots, they clasped perfectly around his ankles, as though made for him. He barely had time to take a breath before the door opened silently. Lucian Frostborn entered without ceremony. His presence felt like the room forming around a center of gravity. He didn't stride. He simply existed in the space with a calm that pulled attention toward him. As always, he wore dark clothes enriched with silver threads, and the fur mantle around his shoulders looked like it belonged to a creature that once ruled glaciers. You are awake, Lucian said. Good. Walk with me. It wasn't a request. But Elias didn't mind. Curiosity stirred inside him like a long-forgotten warmth. He followed Lucian into the hallway. The corridor stretched endlessly, carved from pale ice that reflected their figures in wavering shades. The walls glowed faintly, as though capturing the memory of sunlight from centuries ago. Their footsteps echoed softly. Elias glanced around. How can a place this cold feel alive? Lucian responded without slowing. Because it is alive. That answer pressed questions into Elias's chest, but he stayed quiet. Lucian stopped before a large arched opening. Beyond it, a balcony extended outward, overlooking a breathtaking world. Elias stepped forward and froze. The kingdom sprawled beneath them like a dream sculpted from winter. Forests of frozen trees glimmered like crystal shards. The branches didn't sway with the wind. Instead, they rang faintly, chiming like distant bells. Snow covered everything, but not uniformly. Some areas swirled with constant flakes, while others remained perfectly still, untouched for who knew how long. Wolves with ghost-pale fur roamed near the shadowy edges of the woods, their eyes glowing a faint winter blue. Farther away stood tall structures of ice, towers, bridges, and houses shaped as if carved with delicate fingers instead of tools. The architecture was beautiful but unsettling. Every surface reflected the sky with eerie precision. Everything looked frozen in the middle of its own breath. Elias whispered, "It's unbelievable." Lucian stepped beside him, hands clasped behind his back as if he had watched this view for centuries. "This is the Winter Dominion," Lucian said quietly. "Eternal snow. Eternal silence. Eternal night when the moon is full. We live on the thin line between stillness and survival." Elias noticed people, pale-faced citizens walking the paths below. Their clothes were white and gray, and their movements seemed measured, almost cautious. They bowed deeply when Lucian appeared on the balcony. Even from this height, Elias could feel their devotion. And something else. Fear. Lucian noticed Elias's stare. "They respect their king." "Respect," Elias murmured. "They look afraid." Lucian turned to him slowly. "Fear and respect are not so different in kingdoms like this." Elias swallowed. The cold wind brushed his face, sharp as glass. "Do they know what you are?" Lucian didn't flinch. "They do. Does everyone here accept that?" "They live because I protect them," Lucian said. "Their acceptance is irrelevant. My duty is not." Elias hesitated, but curiosity pushed him forward. "From what do you protect them?" Lucian's silver eyes shifted toward the distant lake, a frozen sheet stretching beyond the forests like a mirror to the sky. "From what sleeps beneath," he said softly. Elias felt a tightness in his stomach. "You mean, the thing you mentioned yesterday? The thing that followed me?" "No," Lucian replied. "That was only a creature of the storm. A shadow of the true danger." Elias waited, breath held. Lucian continued. "The real threat lies under that lake. A being of winter older than this kingdom. Older than all kingdoms." Elias stared at the vast frozen expanse. "So, your people fear that?" Lucian's voice barely moved. "They should." Silence hung between them, not empty but full of unspoken pasts. Elias broke it. "Show me the rest of the kingdom." Lucian extended a hand faintly. "Walk." They descended into the courtyards. The cold air brushed against their skin in gentle waves. Elias noticed that the citizens always looked down when Lucian approached. Not because they were forbidden, but because they seemed overwhelmed to meet his eyes. A shopkeeper bowed so deeply his forehead nearly touched the ice. "My king." Lucian only offered a short nod. Elias whispered, "They treat you like a god." "I am no god," Lucian said. "But they need something larger than themselves to believe in. A kingdom trapped in eternal winter must cling to something." His tone was empty of pride or shame, completely neutral. As they walked, Elias saw children playing with shards of snow shaped into glass-like toys. Their laughter was soft, almost frightened to grow too loud. Women arranged pale flowers that never wilted because they were made of frost. Men polished tools carved from hardened ice stronger than steel. Beauty and sorrow lived side by side. Finally, they reached a small frozen garden with white branches arching across a crystal path. Snowflakes fell here constantly, but never touched the ground, vanishing just before landing. Elias touched one. It melted instantly on his skin, warm for a brief second before disappearing. The magic of the place unsettled him. "It's like the world is holding its breath." Lucian halted. "Because it is." Elias's pulse quickened. "Why?" Lucian met his eyes with a depth that shook Elias more than he expected. "Because something has begun to wake." The way Lucian said it chilled Elias more than the winter air ever had. They walked deeper into the garden until a stone-like bench carved from pure ice appeared beneath a canopy of frozen branches. Lucian motioned for Elias to sit. Elias did. Lucian didn't sit. He stood, hands clasped behind him, gaze fixed on the distant lake. Elias spoke quietly. "Tell me." Lucian's eyes narrowed slightly, as if he'd expected resistance, but Elias wanted to understand. After a long pause, Lucian began. "Long before you were born, before any town near your world existed, this land was ruled by an ancient being named Arcturon." Elias repeated. "Arcturon." "Yes." Lucian's tone remained calm, but an undercurrent of tension carried through each word. "The ice demon. A creature formed from winter itself. Not a beast, not a man, not a god, but something in between." Elias waited, listening hard. Lucian continued. "Arcturon governed this land with one law: survival belonged only to the strongest. He froze entire mountains to punish disobedience. He created storms that devoured villages. His rule was pure winter, a winter without mercy. And you defeated him?" Elias asked quietly. Lucian's jaw tightened the slightest bit. "Not alone. People rose against him. But they needed a leader, someone strong enough to stand in his path. Someone willing to pay the price for binding a being that could not die." Elias leaned forward. "What price?" Lucian's eyes met his. And in that moment, Elias saw something he hadn't seen before, an emotion buried beneath centuries of calm. "Regret. I became the prison," Lucian said softly. Before Elias could ask, Lucian continued. "I trapped Arcturon beneath the frozen lake. But the seal required blood, my blood. A king's blood. And not just once, but continuously. Each century the seal weakens. Each century I must renew it. My life is tied to the ice. My rule is the chain that binds him." Elias felt his breath slow. "So you saved your people," Lucian corrected gently. "I condemned myself to a throne of frost." Elias shook his head. "That's not." Lucian didn't let him finish. "You misunderstand. Power always demands something in return. I took the throne knowing I would become its sacrifice." The wind hissed softly through the frozen branches. Elias swallowed. "Oh, Arcturon is still alive." Lucian's expression hardened. "Alive. Listening. Dreaming beneath the ice. He is not dead. He cannot die. He waits." Elias's skin crawled. "Waits for what?" "For my weakness," Lucian said. "For a moment the seal falters. For a crack in the ice. For anything that allows him to slip free." Elias stared at the distant lake. It suddenly felt ominous, as if something beneath it breathed slowly, patiently. After a moment Elias spoke. "Is that why the storm followed me?" Lucian shook his head. "No. That creature was a fragment of winter, attracted to your warmth and your fear." Elias exhaled shakily. "So what does Arcturon want?" "Revenge." Lucian paused before answering. "He wants the freedom to continue what he began. Winter without end. A world swallowed by ice. And he hates you," Elias said. Lucian's calm returned. "He does not hate. Hatred is human. He only consumes." They both fell silent as the wind whispered through the garden. Elias finally said, "You don't talk about your past much." Lucian's voice was calm, almost empty. "When you have centuries behind you, the past becomes a burden, not a memory." "You sound tired," Elias said softly without thinking. Lucian turned his head, silver eyes narrowing, not in anger but in study. "You hear things others do not," Lucian murmured. Elias looked down, embarrassed. "I just meant, you carry a lot." Lucian stepped closer, stopping only a few feet away. "A king carries the weight that others cannot. That is the foundation of a kingdom. Strength, sacrifice, and silence." Elias met his gaze. "That's lonely." Lucian's expression didn't change, but something in the air tightened. Loneliness, Lucian said, is a human concept. Maybe, Elias answered, but you look like you've known it a long time. Lucian's breath stilled. The branches above them seemed to grow quieter. Why do you say that, Elias warned? Because your eyes look like winter, Elias said simply. Cold, beautiful, and empty. Lucian didn't speak. For the first time the king looked away, not toward the lake but toward the castle, as if the walls themselves had heard too much. Finally he said, "The seal weakens." Elias blinked at the sudden change in direction. "What?" Lucian returned his gaze, voice lower than before. "The ice cracks more each day. The storms grow harsher. Arcturon stirs in his sleep. Something has begun to wake him." Elias felt his chest tighten. "How do you know?" Lucian stepped nearer. Close enough that Elias felt the cold radiating from him. "Because last night," Lucian said, voice like distant thunder, "the blizzard changed. It did not try to kill you." Elias frowned. "Then what did it want?" Lucian's silver eyes held him in place. "It was searching for me." A shiver crawled up Elias's spine. "But it found you instead," Lucian continued softer now. "You walked where no human should. And the moment I touched your pulse, the winter shifted. The ice beneath the lake trembled." Elias whispered, "Because of me?" Lucian nodded slowly. "You awakened something, Elias. And I do not yet know why." The wind howled briefly, almost like a distant scream. Lucian's face remained calm, neutral. But his eyes. For the first time Elias saw fear in them. Not fear for himself. Fear for the kingdom. And fear for the human whose presence had stirred the sleeping winter. Elias woke long before dawn, though dawn itself never truly came in the winter dominion. The sky outside his chamber window glowed with a pale blue brightness that gave no warmth, like the last breath of a dying star. He had slept but not peacefully. His dreams were filled with cracking ice, whispers echoing in the dark, and something huge shifting beneath a frozen lake. Every time he blinked awake, he sensed the cold pressing harder against the castle walls. He swung his legs from the bed, wanting movement, needing to feel something real beneath his feet. He dressed in the heavy clothes Lucian had given him and stepped into the hallway. He didn't get far. Lucian was already waiting. The king stood near the balcony that connected to Elias's floor, facing the endless frozen landscape. His long pale hair moved only slightly in the still air. He didn't turn when Elias approached. "You slept poorly," Lucian said. It wasn't a question. "How did you know?" Elias asked. Lucian finally looked at him. "Your heartbeat." Elias blinked. "You could hear it from all the way out here." Lucian stepped closer, stopping at a comfortable but unmistakably deliberate distance. "I hear everything within these walls," he said quietly. "Every shift of breath, every tremor of fear, every silence." Elias felt heat crawl up his neck. "Then you know I wasn't dreaming about good things." Lucian's expression softened, not into warmth exactly, but into something less cold, like frost melting at the edges. "The lake calls to all who enter this kingdom," Lucian said. "Some hear it more strongly than others." Elias swallowed. "Is it calling to me?" Lucian held his gaze. "Yes." That single word landed like a weight. Lucian turned, gesturing for Elias to follow him down the hall. "Come. You need food." Elias walked beside him through twisting corridors that glowed faintly with blue frostlight. Eventually they entered a grand hall where long tables carved from ice stretched across the floor like frozen rivers. A soft fire burned in the center of the room, not real flame, but a cold fire that gave off light without heat. Servants bowed deeply when Lucian entered, never meeting his eyes. They brought food to Elias: warm bread, thick stew, and fruit preserved in frost crystals. To Lucian they brought nothing. "You're not eating?" Elias asked. Lucian looked amused for the first time. "I do not need mortal food." Elias considered his next words carefully. Do you drink blood? Lucian's expression didn't flicker. I do. Elias braced himself, but Lucian continued before Elias could spiral into panic. But only from willing subjects, Lucian added calmly. Or from enemies who choose to threaten my people. Elias relaxed a little. So you're not going to, drink mine. Lucian tilted his head slightly, eyes glinting. Not unless you asked. Elias coughed and looked away so quickly it nearly hurt. Without commenting further, Lucian sat beside him, closer than strictly necessary. Cold radiated from him, but something else did too, a strange steadiness that grounded Elias in a way he didn't expect. Elias picked at his food, trying to settle the nervous flutter in his chest. Lucian spoke quietly. You are warmer today. I feel better. The elixir helped. Lucian nodded. It strengthens you. This land drains humans quickly. Your warmth is a rarity here. Elias blinked. Is that a problem? Lucian's eyes sharpened. It is a gift. And a danger. Elias felt a pulse in his chest. To who? Lucian didn't answer immediately. Instead he stood. Come. There is something I want you to see. They crossed the great hall and stepped outside into the courtyard. The palace grounds were vast. Towering ice structures surrounded them, glowing faintly like moonlit crystals. Snow fell steadily, soft flakes drifting around them in slow spirals. Lucian led Elias toward a forest of frost trees. Each tree had branches like glass, bending gracefully under their own weight. The ground crunched beneath their boots, but not like normal snow. This snow had a harder, crystalline texture. Lucian stopped before the first tree. Touch it. Elias placed his hand on the trunk. It was surprisingly smooth and cold enough to numb his palm instantly. But beneath the cold, he felt a faint pulse like a slow heartbeat. It's alive, Elias whispered. Yes, Lucian said. Everything here is alive. This land is not dead winter. It is winter with a mind. Winter with memory. Elias looked up at him. How can people live here? Lucian stepped closer. His presence steady and unshakable. Because I hold the balance. Without me, the land would swallow everything in silence. Before Elias could respond, a soft sound echoed from deeper in the forest. A distant, cracking groan, like ice straining against something massive beneath it. Lucian's expression sharpened instantly. Elias tensed. What was that? Lucian answered with absolute calm. The lake. Another crack followed, louder this time, rolling like distant thunder. Lucian grabbed Elias's wrist, firm but not hurting. We returned to the castle. Now. Elias didn't argue. As they walked, Lucian spoke in a lower voice. The warmth in you pulls at the ice. Arcturon stirs because something new has entered this realm, something that does not belong to winter. Elias felt his pulse racing. Me. Yes. Lucian's grip tightened slightly. And it may be the reason the seal weakens faster. Elias swallowed. But you said you don't know why. Lucian's voice grew almost too soft to hear. I will find out. Elias looked at the king, at his pale hair, his silver eyes, his calm that seemed carved from centuries of solitude. And for the first time, Elias realized something unexpected. Lucian was not cold by nature. Lucian was cold because he had to be. Night fell, though it looked the same as day. Pale, blue, dreamlike, endless. Elias lay in bed but couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt the faint vibration of the ice beneath the castle floor. Not enough to be alarming. Just enough to feel like breathing. He exhaled shakily and pulled the blankets tighter around himself. Then he heard it. A whisper. At first he thought it was the wind, but it grew clearer. Not words, just a voice, low and deep, echoing inside his mind like distant thunder beneath a frozen ocean. Elias sat up, heart hammering. Who's there? No answer. But the whispering didn't stop. He climbed out of bed and approached the window. The lake lay far beyond the forest, but in the distance, Elias saw faint cracks of pale blue light spreading across its surface. "Lucian," Elias whispered. As if summoned, the door opened behind him. Lucian entered the room silently, but Elias could see tension in his posture, a faint tightness in his jaw. "You heard it," Lucian said. Elias nodded slowly. "You heard it too." Lucian stepped closer to the window. "I hear him always. But tonight he spoke louder. Because he found you." Elias's chest tightened. "He found me. Why?" Lucian kept staring out at the lake. "Arcturon senses warmth, life, emotion, everything he is not. Your presence is like fire in this land of ice. He reaches for it." Elias tried to calm his breathing. "What did he say?" Lucian turned, and his expression, usually unreadable, looked heavier than before. "He called your name." Elias felt his blood run cold. "How does he know my name?" Lucian spoke quietly. "Arcturon knows all who enter this realm. Your presence disturbs his sleep. He presses against the seal, trying to reach the source of the disturbance." Elias backed away from the window. "You said the seal is weakening. Does that mean he can hear everything now?" Lucian nodded once. "Yes. And soon he may do more than hear." Elias felt a tremor run through him, not from the cold, but from a fear deeper than he wanted to admit. Lucian stepped closer and placed a hand lightly on Elias's shoulder. His touch was cold but grounding. "You are safe here," Lucian said firmly. "He cannot reach you while I stand." Elias looked up at him. "But the cracks, the whispers, they're getting worse. What happens when the seal breaks?" Lucian didn't answer immediately. His eyes drifted toward the window again, where light shimmered across the ice. Finally he said, "If Arcturon rises, this kingdom falls. Everything will freeze beyond recovery. Even I may not survive." Elias's breath caught. "So we stop it. We strengthen the seal." Lucian's expression grew darker. "The seal demands blood. My blood. And time is running thin." Elias stepped closer, voice steadier. "Then I'll help you. Whatever it takes." Lucian looked at him sharply. "You do not know what you offer." "I don't care," Elias said. "You saved my life. You've protected me from this place. I won't just watch you face this alone." Lucian's gaze softened, more than it ever had before. Something unreadable flickered behind his eyes. He lifted a hand and brushed a stray lock of hair from Elias's forehead. The touch was colder than ice, yet Elias didn't pull away. "You should not care for me," Lucian murmured. "But I do," Elias said quietly. Lucian's breath stilled. A faint tremor shook the castle, soft but unmistakable. Lucian turned toward the window again. "He is impatient." Elias swallowed. "Does he want to kill me?" "No," Lucian said. "He wants to claim you. The warmth in you, your life, would feed him, strengthen him, give him power enough to break the seal fully." Elias stared at the lake again. The cracks were spreading. "So what do we do?" Lucian walked toward him, stopping close enough that Elias felt the cold aura around him like a gentle frost. "We prepare," Lucian said. "For what?" Lucian answered with the stillness of someone who had fought centuries of battles. "For the demon to rise." Elias felt his knees weaken. Lucian stepped closer. "Elias, look at me." Elias lifted his gaze. "You are not alone," Lucian said. "And I will not let him take you." Elias exhaled shakily, but steadiness returned to his hands. "I trust you," he said. Lucian closed his eyes briefly, as if those words hit deeper than any wound. "Then stay close to me," Lucian whispered. "Your warmth awakens the ice, but near me I can shield you from its call." Elias nodded. Lucian turned to leave but paused at the doorway. His voice was barely above a whisper. "And Elias, be careful what you feel. Emotion is warmth. Warmth is power. And Arcturon feeds on power." The door closed softly behind him. But Elias couldn't forget the last thing he saw. Lucian's fingers trembling, just slightly, as though something about Elias made even the King of Winter feel the weight of the coming storm. The castle woke before Elias did. A deep, rumbling sound rolled through the halls, so soft it felt like a distant nightmare, yet strong enough to make ice lanterns flicker and crack. Elias jolted upright in bed, breath caught in his throat. For a moment he couldn't tell if he was dreaming again or if the earth itself groaned beneath him. Then he heard the second sound. Sharp echoing crack, like ice splitting under crushing weight. Elias pushed himself out of bed and staggered to the window. The lake in the distance glowed faintly with eerie blue light. Thin lines of brightness snaked across its surface like veins under pale skin. The cracks were spreading. And then, the whisper. Not faint anymore. Not a breath. Not a suggestion. A voice, deep and resonant, pressed directly into Elias's skull as if hands of frost gripped his mind. Elias stumbled away from the window. Hands pressed to his ears even though it did nothing. No, stop. The voice grew clearer. Cold. A sound that felt older than the world. Come closer, little flame. Feel you. Elias's body trembled uncontrollably. Sweat chilled immediately on his skin. The door slammed open. Lucian stood there. His expression sharp and dangerous in a way Elias had never seen before. His eyes glowed brighter, silver burning with something close to fury. Elias, Lucian said. Stay away from the window. Elias nodded shakily, breath uneven. Lucian strode across the room and placed a cold hand on Elias's forehead, brushing away the echo of Archeron's presence. His touch silenced the whisper instantly. Elias gasped. He was in my head. Lucian, he spoke to me. Lucian held his face gently but firmly. I know. I felt him reach. Elias's voice cracked. He called my name. Lucian exhaled through his teeth, a sound that wasn't exactly human. He should not have that strength yet. Another tremor shook the castle, this time stronger. Lucian pulled Elias toward him, steadying him with both hands on his shoulders. Listen carefully, Lucian said. The seal is failing faster than I predicted. He is pushing through every layer of ice to reach you. To reach me, Elias whispered. Why me? Lucian's expression tightened. Because your warmth weakens the winter's hold. Your presence disrupts the balance. You didn't just wake the seal. You're feeding him every time you fear, every time you feel. Elias swallowed hard. I'm making things worse. No, Lucian said sharply. You are simply a spark in a kingdom built on cold. Archeron wants sparks. He wants heat, life, emotion. He devours what he does not possess. Elias stared into Lucian's eyes. What do we do? Lucian released him and walked to the window. His posture went still like iron forged in frost. We prepare to face him, Lucian said. But first, there is something you need to know. Elias waited. Lucian didn't turn when he spoke. Archeron does not want to kill you. Elias froze. Then what does he want? Lucian turned his head slightly, his silver eyes grave. To claim you. Before Elias could ask what that meant, another thunderous crack split the silence. This time the ice lamps shattered. The castle shook violently. Snow dust fell from the ceiling. Servants screamed in distant corridors. Lucian's voice dropped to a sharper tone. Stay behind me. They ran through the castle's twisting halls. Every step echoed with the cracking of deeper foundations. Frost spread along the walls like roots of a colossal frost tree. As they reached the entrance hall, the massive doors shuddered violently. Something was hitting them from outside. Elias stumbled backward. Lucian, what is that? Lucian didn't blink. Not Archeron. One of his fragments. The door splintered. An enormous form slammed into the hall. A monstrous creature made entirely of jagged ice, its limbs shaped like shattered blades, its mouth a gaping void of frost. It shrieked, a sound like frozen steel scraping across bone. Elias covered his ears. Lucian stepped forward. "Elias," Lucian said quietly. "Look at me." Elias tore his eyes from the monster and looked at Lucian. "Do not run," Lucian said. "Do not leave my shadow." Elias nodded, trembling. Lucian stepped before the creature, and when he spoke, his voice echoed through the entire hall. "Return to the ice." The creature lunged. Lucian's hand shot forward, faster than a blizzard wind. Frost exploded from his fingertips, twisting the creature's body midair. Ice shattered across the floor in a burst of violent brilliance. The monster collapsed into shards and melted instantly into thin, steaming vapor. Elias stared, unable to breathe. Lucian didn't turn to face him immediately. When he finally did, his eyes glowed brighter than before, almost too bright. "This was only the beginning," Lucian said. "Archeron is testing the strength of his cage." A final tremor shook the walls. Elias whispered, "Will he break free?" Lucian stepped toward him slowly, his expression unreadable. "That depends," Lucian said, "on what you choose." Elias's heartbeat stilled. Lucian's voice dropped to a whisper. "And whom you give your heart to." The throne room was the only place in the castle untouched by the tremors. Lucian led Elias into the vast chamber. The walls rose high, covered in ancient symbols carved into the ice. Spirals, runes, shapes of storms and fangs. The throne itself stood upon a dais carved from solid glacier, glowing with faint silver light. The atmosphere felt heavier here, colder, as if the room remembered everything that had ever happened within it. Lucian gestured for Elias to step closer. "Here," Lucian said quietly. "The ice listens least. You are safer to speak." Elias crossed his arms against the cold. "Safer from Archeron." Lucian nodded. "This throne holds the last remnants of the first seal. He cannot fully reach into this place." Elias looked around. "It feels different, like the air is holding itself still." Lucian stepped up the dais and rested one hand on the icy throne. "This is where I made the pact. This is where I gave my blood to bind him. And now the same blood pulses in the cracks." Elias shivered. "Is that why he wants me? Because I woke him?" Lucian shook his head. "He wants you because you are something new. Something the winter has never touched. You carry warmth willingly. You feel deeply without fear. You walk into a land of monsters and still offer your trust." Lucian's silver eyes settled on him. "Archeron feeds on hearts like that." Elias swallowed. "What does he want to do with me?" Lucian's voice dropped. "Consume you. Become what you are. Gain warmth, life, emotion. If he takes you, he will no longer be imprisoned by cold." The thought made Elias's blood chill. "And what about you?" Elias asked softly. Lucian blinked. "What do you mean?" Elias stepped closer to the dais. "Why do you want me close?" Lucian didn't answer immediately. His face remained unreadable, but something flickered behind his eyes, something Elias couldn't name. "Because," Lucian said slowly, "your presence unsettles the winter but steadies me." Elias's breath caught. Lucian continued in a quiet tone. "I have ruled for centuries with nothing but ice in my chest. But since you arrived, cracks form where there should be none. Warmth seeps where it should not." He exhaled. "I do not know if this makes me weaker or stronger." A faint tremor ran through the throne room, small but sharp. Elias looked toward the lake through the tall window. The cracks glowed brighter now, pulsing like veins under skin. "What happens now?" Elias asked. Lucian descended the dais and stood before him. "Now you choose," Lucian said. "Who claims your heart?" Elias inhaled sharply. "Lucian, you do not yet understand," Lucian said, stepping closer still. "Archeron will not stop calling you. He will whisper, dream, shape the ice around you. He will offer you everything, power, safety, eternal life, if only you walk willingly to him." Elias shook his head. I'd never do that. You say that now, Lucian replied. But he will use your memories, your desires, your fears. He will appear in dreams wearing faces that comfort you. Elias's jaw tightened. And you? Lucian blinked. What about me? Are you asking anything of me? Elias asked quietly. Lucian didn't move. The air between them grew heavier. I am asking nothing, Lucian said. But his voice carried another meaning, something Elias felt more than heard. Elias took a step closer. But you want something. Lucian froze. His breathing stilled. Elias continued, voice steady despite the tremors beneath his feet. You say I have warmth, that I disturb something in you. But you never tell me what you want from me. Lucian's eyes flickered like reflected lightning. Want is dangerous for a king. Dangerous for you. Tell me anyway, Elias said. Silence stretched. Lucian lifted a hand and touched Elias's cheek. Not harshly. Not coldly. Gently. The touch froze Elias in place more effectively than any winter. Lucian's voice came out soft, almost painful. I want, Lucian said, for once in my endless life to choose someone not out of duty but desire. Elias's breath hitched. The cold around them pulsed with something warm, something alive. But before Elias could speak, the throne room doors burst open with a force like a cracking glacier. A servant stumbled inside, frost clinging to his cloak. My king, the man cried. The lake, the cracks, there's movement beneath the ice. Lucian dropped his hand instantly. His expression snapped back into the cold steel of a ruler. Elias, Lucian said, voice tight with urgency. Stay behind me. Do not leave this room. Elias grabbed his wrist. Lucian, wait. If he's rising, what does that mean? Lucian looked into his eyes. It means, he said grimly, that Archeron has chosen tonight to break the seal. The castle shook violently. Elias stumbled. Lucian caught him before he fell. Whatever happens, Lucian whispered, do not answer if he calls your name. Then Lucian released him and headed toward the doors, cloak swirling like a storm. Elias stood frozen. Not by cold. By the feeling Lucian left behind. A warmth that trembled in the air, fragile and fierce. And beneath the earth, Archeron whispered again. Elias, the ice cracked. And the heart of winter prepared to break. The ground convulsed like a living thing. Elias clung to the arm of the throne as the ancient palace tremored beneath him. Ice rained from the vaulted ceiling. Frost peeled away in long, jagged strips. The air felt electrified, sharp enough to cut the inside of his lungs. And from somewhere deep beneath the castle, rose. The voice came again, stronger than before, spreading through the halls like a cold wind that had learned to speak. Elias. Your warmth calls to me. Elias squeezed his eyes shut, shaking. No, I'm not listening to you. But the voice only laughed, a deep, echoing sound like boulders grinding beneath frozen seas. The doors at the far end of the throne room burst open. Lucian strode inside. His silver eyes bright with fierce, burning resolve. Frost swirled around him like a cloak woven from storms. Elias, he said sharply. Stay close. The floor split between them with a thunderous crack. A jagged line of blue fire streaked across the marble ice, separating Elias and Lucian. Elias gasped. Lucian! Lucian leapt toward him, but the crack widened instantly, forcing him back. A violent burst of icy mist exploded upward, blocking the space between them with a swirling wall of frost. Elias reached out helplessly. Lucian, what do I do? Stay where you are, Lucian ordered. His voice shook, not with fear, but with the desperation of someone watching something precious slip away. Do not answer him. Do not move. The mist thickened, spiraling upward like a frost-born cyclone. Through it, a towering shape slowly began to form, tall, jagged, humbling in its size. Archeron. He ascended like a god carved from frozen storms. His body was a fusion of frost, ice, and pure ancient rage. Spikes of crystalline armor jutted from his shoulders and spine. His eyes, two burning cores of blue fire, locked instantly onto Elias. The demon tilted his head. "So small," Aksharon murmured, his voice echoing through the entire hall. "So warm." Elias stumbled backward. Lucian stepped between them, though forced to stay behind the wall of mist. His voice thundered. "Do not touch him." Aksharon seemed amused. "Lucian Frostborn," he said. "King of nothing. Keeper of an oath you barely understood. You trapped me beneath the ice a century ago, and now you pretend you have the strength to face me again." Lucian bared his fangs. "I will not let you take him." Aksharon's icy lips curled. "Ah, so that's why the seal broke so quickly." He pointed one jagged finger toward Elias. "You let a flame into your throne room. You let him close to your heart." Lucian froze, jaw tightening. Aksharon's grin widened. "And you thought the ice would not notice?" Elias felt breathless. Every word felt like a blade. Lucian struck first. He surged forward like a blur of silver lightning, frost trailing from his fingertips. The throne room lit with a violent flash as Lucian flung raw, ancient power directly at Aksharon. The demon lifted one arm and absorbed the blast as if catching a snowflake. "Still weak," Aksharon said. "Still ruled by fear." Lucian didn't hesitate. He attacked again and again. Blizzards of ice, spears of frozen light, slicing arcs of sharpened frost. Aksharon barely moved. With a bored flick of his wrist, he shattered Lucian's frost storm into glittering fragments. Lucian stumbled. Elias cried out, "No, Lucian!" Aksharon's glowing eyes slid to Elias again. "Do you know what you are?" the demon asked. Elias shook his head, trembling. Aksharon drifted closer, each step cracking tiles beneath his enormous feet. "You are a spark in the dark. A pulse of warmth in a land that pretends to have no need for it." "I don't belong to you," Elias whispered. Aksharon smiled. "Not yet." Lucian lunged again, but Aksharon raised one hand and a wall of ice burst upward, blocking him completely. "Stop hiding behind barriers," Lucian roared. Aksharon answered without looking at him. "I am not hiding. You are the one trapped. By your throne. By your guilt. By your feelings." Lucian struck the ice barrier, cracking it but not breaking through. Aksharon extended his hand toward Elias. "Come, Elias. Walk to me, and I will spare your life." Elias shook violently. "Why me?" "Because you were the final key," Aksharon said. "The human pulse that broke the last of my chains." He stepped closer. "And because Lucian cares for you. Deeply." Lucian slammed a fist into the ice. "Elias, don't listen. He twists truth with lies." Aksharon chuckled. "Then why won't you say the truth aloud, Lucian?" He leaned forward. Tell him why his heartbeat weakens me and strengthens you." Lucian fell silent. Aksharon's voice grew colder. "Tell him why you rescued him in the blizzard instead of letting him die like any sensible king." Lucian's jaw clenched. Aksharon's eyes glowed brighter. "Tell him why you look at him the way winter looks at dawn." Lucian's expression cracked. "Enough," he shouted. The wall of ice between them shattered, but Aksharon was faster. He swept his arm through the air, sending a wave of frost that slammed Lucian across the room. Lucian struck the far wall with a sickening sound and slid to the floor. "Lucian!" Elias cried, running toward him. Aksharon stepped calmly between them, blocking the path. "That is enough warmth wasted on a king who bleeds guilt," Aksharon said coldly. Elias glared at him. "Get out of my way." The demon tilted his head. "Or you'll do what? Melt me." He reached out and touched Elias's chest with a finger colder than death. Elias gasped, the cold spreading through his ribs like knives. Lucian forced himself upright, blood on his lips. "Elias, Move away from him. Archeron lowered his voice. If you walk to me willingly, Elias, I will let Lucian live. Elias froze. Lucian snarled. Archeron, do not use him. Why not? Archeron asked. You used him. For warmth. For strength. For hope. I only ask for honesty. Lucian's fists clenched. Archeron looked down at Elias. Choose. Elias's pulse pounded painfully. He looked back at Lucian. Lucian's expression, usually cold and controlled, cracked wide open. Elias, Lucian breathed, voice breaking. Don't go to him. I swear it, I will protect you. Even if it kills me. Archeron chuckled. It will. He raised his arm. Elias screamed. Stop. The demon paused. Elias's entire body shook. If I go with you, you won't kill Lucian. Not today, Archeron said. Not if you walk willingly. Lucian's voice fell to a raw, desperate whisper. Elias, don't do this. Elias met Lucian's eyes. Painful, silver, hopeful, frightened, and stepped forward. The throne room froze in silence. Archeron smiled. And winter deepened. The lake was a battlefield of shattered frost and glowing veins of blue light. Archeron dragged Elias through the ruined courtyard, each step echoing across the kingdom. The wind screeched like a living creature. Snow spiraled violently around them, forming a storm that centered on Archeron's towering form. Elias stumbled with every step, but Archeron's grip on his arm held him upright. Let me go, Elias gasped. Soon, Archeron murmured. When they reached the frozen lake, the cracks pulsed like a heartbeat, lighting the storm from below. Archeron stopped at the center, lifting Elias effortlessly into the air. Here, Archeron said, the winter began. Here it will be reborn. Elias struggled. You said you wouldn't hurt Lucian. I won't, Archeron said calmly. If he stays away. But a voice cut through the storm. Put him down. Lucian. He appeared at the far side of the lake, cloak fluttering violently in the wind. His silver eyes blazed brighter than the ice beneath them. Archeron raised an eyebrow. You should be unconscious. I should be many things, Lucian said. But I am still king. Archeron dropped Elias onto the ice. Elias scrambled backward as the demon stepped forward, towering over Lucian. You cannot win, Archeron said. Lucian's expression hardened. I do not fight to win. Archeron paused. Then why fight at all? Lucian glanced at Elias. And the truth spilled out in a quiet, broken voice. Because I love him. Elias froze. Archeron laughed, a sound like glaciers collapsing. You speak the word at last. Too late. Lucian lowered his voice. Not too late for him. He moved faster than Elias had ever seen, launching himself at Archeron with every shred of strength left in his immortal body. Frost exploded outward in violent waves. Archeron reeled back, surprised for the first time. The battle was chaos. Bursting ice, screaming winds, shards of frozen power flying across the lake. Elias shielded his face as the two ancient beings clashed with a fury that shook the world. Lucian fought like a man with nothing left to lose. Archeron fought like a storm unchained. Elias watched in horror as Lucian was slammed again and again into the ice. His body cracked it. Blood stained the surface. Lucian! Elias screamed. Lucian forced himself up. Stay back, Elias. Archeron lifted a massive arm, gathering power. You cannot protect warmth with cold. Lucian whispered. Watch me. Elias felt something snap inside his chest. He stood. The wind howled around him, but he walked across the breaking ice toward the battling giants. Elias! Lucian choked. Stop! Archeron turned toward him. Finally. You choose. Elias shook his head. I'm choosing neither of you. Both froze. Elias placed his palm on the glowing ice. Warmth, his warmth, poured into the cracks. The lake glowed brighter. Archeron roared. What are you doing? Elias didn't stop. He whispered, if my warmth woke you, then it can put you back to sleep. The ground shuddered violently. The entire lake blazed with golden white light. Arcturon charged, but the ice beneath him melted instantly into blinding radiance. He screamed, sinking back into the glowing fissures that had freed him. No, Elias, no. Lucian ran toward him, but the light swallowed everything. Elias felt warmth explode through his chest. Hot, painful, pure, and then the world went silent. The storm ended. Snow drifted gently from a calm sky. Lucian knelt on the ice, trembling. The cracks had sealed. The lake was whole again. But Elias lay motionless in the center. Lucian crawled to him, shaking. He lifted Elias into his arms, holding him against his chest. Elias, Lucian whispered, voice breaking. Please, open your eyes. But Elias didn't move. Lucian bowed over him, forehead touching Elias's hair. Don't leave me, don't leave this kingdom. Please. A faint warm breath touched Lucian's neck. Lucian froze. Elias exhaled quietly. Stirred. His eyes fluttered open. Lucian. Lucian let out a broken sound that wasn't a sob, but close. He pulled Elias against him in a fierce, trembling embrace. You're alive, Lucian whispered. You're alive. Elias weakly gripped his cloak. I didn't let him take me. Lucian held him tighter. You saved us all. The snow around them glowed faintly, not cold but warm. Elias leaned into Lucian's chest, exhausted, and whispered. Winter finally breathed. And for the first time in a century, the frost began to melt. If this story pulled you into the winter storm, don't leave yet. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because the next chapter could change everything. Your support keeps these worlds alive.